So you know the saying, you are who you're surrounded by, or you are who your friends are, something like that.
Yeah.
What if? So say the saying is you are who you're surrounded by.
Mm-hmm.
In a time like this, what if you're not surrounded by anyone? Who are you?
Well, I think that's such. Oh God, sorry, I'm really excited about this. I think that's such a good point. I feel like that's something that people have been struggling with. Is you when you're not around anyone because you're isolated, because you have to be alone for whatever reason, pandemic, all that stuff. You sort of start to like almost go crazy, but in a way I've seen on TikTok especially a lot of people start regressing to things that they used to like when they were younger. When because I feel like as we get older, that's when you start seeing people more frequently, and you create a solid friend group, and you have a bunch of people that you're around, or you're in college, so you're having all these new experiences. But like in middle school and stuff like that, like obviously we had friends, but I feel like middle school for a lot of people is when they were really into like stan culture, or they had something that they were really into, like they like anime or like video games or like certain music groups. And so I thought that was really interesting, that a lot of times people were like, oh my God, this quarantine has made me like listen to like Five Sauce again or something like that, or like, oh my God, I'm back in like my Big Time Rush phase or something like that. And I thought that was really cool. It's like you start, when you're not surrounded by people, it's almost like you start to like, this sounds like really dramatic, but you start to like want to emulate like older versions of yourself. Because
so you think if you're not surrounded by anyone, you go back to your old versions of yourself,
or like something that is familiar to you, but like you can sort of uncover again.
Mm-hmm. No, that's so interesting, and I definitely like agree with what you're saying, and I think a lot, like especially during this pandemic, I hate like saying that so much,
like this pandemic.
But people like when you start to feel lonely, you turn to other things, and that's why like social media especially has picked up, and like people turn to influencers, and it just helps you feel less lonely, because especially if they're a good influencer, you feel like you're talking to a friend, you know what I mean?
True.
And you don't feel so alone. And kind of like what you were saying before, like how people might regress into previous states, like I think that's really interesting, because you see a lot of people who like maybe just graduated and they're in their 20s, and they are like they are living back at home like with their parents in their childhood bedroom, and it's like a big struggle for them, because at that point, like I totally understand how you could feel like, who am I now? Like, what is my identity? You know?
Right.
I think kind of what you said, I have it written down. It's my question was, if people are who they're surrounded by, who is someone that is alone? Is it by the content they consume?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think so? Is it?
Well, I don't think it's the content they consume inherently, but I think because there's no social interaction, or there's like minimal social interactions with your like family, which is still interaction, obviously. Like I love hanging out with my family, but that's a completely different vibe than new people. I think that you end up turning to the content because it feels like you have something new. It feels like you're being stimulated by something, and it's almost like you can engage with that, and it feels like it's a form of escapism. Not to say that it's always unhealthy. I don't think it's unhealthy. I'm a K-pop stan, so so you want to talk about escapism? But I think it's really interesting because it's like it feels like not somebody to talk to, but it feels like something to put yourself in and something to consume yourself with, because you don't have that type of stimulation from just like, oh, this random girl I met in my class, or somebody that smiled at me walking on the quad, because you're not going anywhere and you're not doing anything. So you feel more inclined to talk to people on the internet, or comment on random TikToks, or go back to your stan culture and write fan fiction on Tumblr or something like that. But
I think it's definitely a form of like instant gratification, though. It's definitely not sustainable. And I mean, I think we've all like been in that situation where you kind of just have a lazy day, or just feel like really down or crappy. So you just go on your phone and you're on it all day, and it's like, it's not sustainable. Like, yes, it gives you something to do and keeps your brain stimulated for like a few hours, but like in the end, it just ends up leaving, at least me, feeling like kind of empty.
I totally agree with the feeling empty, because I think that it's really fun to consume content and getting into it, especially when it's like a whole culture and you have all these different facets and new things that you can learn, because a stan culture for most things is really involved if you really want to get into it. Not that you have to, but if you want to and you have the time to, you might as well. But I think it's so true with like, you get into all these things, like you listen to all the artists' music, you watch all of like their videos and all this stuff, and then afterwards you're just sitting there like, like what else can I do? It feels unfulfilling because, and I think that goes back into the instant gratification, because you're getting that sort of like serotonin boost. You're getting this sort of, oh my God, I love this. This is so much fun. I love having something to put all my energy into. And then you sit back about it and you're like, I can't get what I want out of this because I'm in my room and not at their concert or not their friend or whatever. If you're like weird like that, not weird. That's not weird.
I've been